read a little bit about you, and you started sewing when you were younger, and then you really got active in the sewing when you were in high school. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What kind of inspired you to be more active during your high school years? Is there anything particular that happened?
Well, mostly it was a lack of funds for the clothes that I wanted to have. It was, my mother said, well, you have to sew. So I did, actually. At that time, I had an Irish auntie who taught me how to hand sew when I was just a wee baby. And I guess I got the love of sewing from her. She's pretty awesome. She taught me how to take 12 tiny little back stitches per inch. And that's actually where the name of my business comes from, this stitch, because I would want to take big, long, helping stitches and get done and get my project finished, whatever it was that we were doing. And she would say, oh, Evy, I'll beat the stitch, So that's how I really fell in love with sewing, was sitting at her knee and learning how. But in school, I made money by making things for other people and making them for myself. I made my first prom gown when I was in 9th grade for someone else, and I got paid $25 for it, and I thought I was rich.
$25?
Yes. That was a huge amount of money to me at that time, and I thought that was just awesome. I didn't have a pattern for it. I scared my mother to death. We had a cranky sewing machine. I hadn't even known that there was such a thing as an electric sewing machine until I took home ec in school, and that was when I was really introduced to a real sewing machine that could do a zigzag stitch and put in a buttonhole. Mm-hmm. That was pretty cool. It wasn't long after that Mom found me a used machine, and it was when I got a hold of that I started sewing for people. So in 9th grade, I made my first dress. Didn't have a pattern. I had to lock myself into the guest room upstairs because my mother kept hyperventilating, seeing me whack away at that fabric without any pattern whatsoever to speak of. She just knew that she was going to have to pay that girl's mother back for that $4.99 a yard fabric, which was very expensive fabric in that day.
And when she saw the end result, what did she think? Was she impressed, or did she kind of say, well, I knew she could do it?
I can't believe somebody is going to wear that.
Well, I'm sure that...
Actually, the girl loved it. I was pretty surprised, too, that somebody was going to wear it. But she loved it. She felt good in it. I learned that that's really all that matters.
Well, can you tell us what life is like as a couturier since you've been sewing for so long? What is the life of being a designer for women's and children's wear especially?
Well, when I was a couturier, that was a whole lot more interesting than working as a designer for a company. Mm-hmm. I learned how to get inside people's heads and figure out how they thought they looked. And that was quite a challenge. And once you could figure out what they perceived themselves as being and their taste and so forth, then you could pretty much please them. But when I worked as a women's and children's wear designer, I was pretty much put in a box. They say,
right.
Specs, you need to design we need 6 pieces that look like this and 6 that this and 2 bottoms and 4 tops. And you really didn't have a lot of room for creativity. Just had to do what was their look. And you didn't get to be very creative with it. I only lasted about 4 years there. Mm-hmm. I burned out real fast.
Well, what do you think would be the most rewarding part of what you're doing now? As far as, are you still teaching, or are you...
Well, you're going to laugh at me. The most rewarding part of my job is getting to work in my pajamas.
I mean, I think that anyone would find that pretty rewarding, so...
And I like my boss. She's as crazy as I am. She lets me have free reign. If in the middle of the night I decide that there's something that I need to make, then, she doesn't mind at all if I go charging out to the studio and make it. She's a tea alcoholic. She loves to drink tea and eat chocolate. I can't complain. My boss is great.
That sounds awesome. So can you tell us, we're actually having another embroidery seminar on how to start your own embroidery business at the end of this month. So your seminar will be following up with that. Can you tell us, you said that you love working in your pajamas, but can you tell us what the embroidery life or having a career based in embroidery really has to offer someone looking to actually start a career or start their own business?
Well, depend. If you are a designer and want to start your own business from that point, is very different than if you are not a designer, but you're using someone else's designs to start your own business. So they're two very different ones, and they're both very, I recommend either one of them. Not only do you get to pretty much make your own hours and work at your own speed and be creative, which is the biggest plus of anything in my business, is just getting to be creative every day, every single day. How many people can say that? Not many, right?
Right.
So getting to actually be creative every day is the biggest plus of all of my business, really above working in my pajamas. But as far as having your own business, it is hard. There is lots of new rules and regulations out right now that make business a little bit daunting for people. I think that as a designer, if you're going to design your own designs or projects, that having an art background is very helpful. You need to have your own eye, your own style. You need to know how to digitize very, very well. It's better to do your own digitizing than to hire it out because you have better control. Okay. If you're using someone else's designs to create projects, well, there's a little bit more expense probably in the startup cost of it, but it's very rewarding because you get to see people walk out of the door with something that you made and makes them happy, and that makes you happy. So getting to be creative, I think, is the best part of having anything to do with any business in the sewing industry.